essentially bridged, the psychic, the mediumship, because I do work with the other side. Those are two magnifiers, success and love. So if you want to hold finance, you have to have a relationship with your pussy.
Okay, let's talk about, what does that mean? How is money and pussy connected?
It's our responsibility as women is to alchemize in the body, because that's then our power, then no one can take it from us.
Vanessa, thank you so much for joining me on the whole shebang.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's been really fun that we've had an opportunity to connect a few different times. And I have to tell you, I had, prior to that last conversation, or the last couple conversations we had, I had heard so much about you from more than one person. And they were like, oh my gosh, you have to meet Vanessa. So I've been looking forward to having you on the show and just giving other people an opportunity to get to know more about you and what you're doing.
Worlds. That's a fun spot. I'll take
So
action.
let's just, if you're okay with it, we can just dive right in. And I think maybe a good place to start, and the first point of connection that I had with you was around some of the work that you've done with coaching in meditation. So do you want to share a little bit about, what got you into that work and what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So my entrance into the work was through my own practice, and you'll see that really is my thread through and through and through as we speak today. So out of college, I got a business marketing degree. I started a career. I was working at a university doing fundraising. And it was at that time that my office became a revolving door, and my practice on my own was developing. So I was starting to lean into manifestation text. I was, to be real straight, I got out of college and I got into this career, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is life. And so I started to ask the question, what's my purpose? And I was being delivered. So this came through people, this came through text, this came through conversations, and I started to develop a practice, and it was meditation. And it was in that spot that I was starting to just experience myself in a way that I probably always knew was in there. It was really starting to bridge the gap for me, because I was raised Christian. So I was in Catholic school, didn't really have parents who were too religious, other than they just chose to put us into private school. And so I think it was just my cadence as a human, and now knowing myself more, I gravitated to the seeker. I was really wanting to understand. I was really wanting the feeling. So it was in meditation that I really started to access that feeling. It was literally like, my soma was connecting to source, and I was turned on. So in this revolving door of people that were coming into my office, daily, weekly, they were asking for help, and I was sharing what I was up to. And it was one moment, and this is really all it takes, where I had actually had a business coach at the time, and I was asking her, I'm like, how do I get this woman to stop coming into my office? It's draining me. And she's like, turn it into your first client. And so of course I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So I worked through how to communicate. And then, Monday morning she came in, and I said, hey, I'm going to start a business, and I'm wanting to know if you want to be my first client. And she's like, yes, I wrote it on my to-do list this morning that I needed to find an accountability partner. These were her exact words. And that's when, that's when spirit, delivers. When you're asked to do something, then it's like there's this trail that follows. And so what I was hearing, and this kind of gets into now my channel and my gifts, I heard through a clairaudient sense, take them into meditation. And I followed. And it was through following with people in meditation or myself that I would start to experience. I'm very visual. So when I go into a meditation, I really see pictures and, really clear things that I use as a guide for myself, for others. So what I did is I essentially bridged, the psychic, the mediumship, because I do work with the other side. Like it's very visual for me if someone's with someone, like, oh, your grandfather's on your shoulder or your mother is here. And there's ways that I can tell if they're here or if they're past, or I just ask the person. But there's ways to see. And then I have a channeling ability, so I can pull information that sometimes is like, who was that? And it is just something that's coming through me. So what through honing it, and I was at that career for 5 years. I had a small, clientele, and then I full on went out on my own and really started the process of building. So that'll be 10 years, May 15th.
Wow. What a journey. So I'm going to dive into this a little bit more if you don't mind, because I'm so curious. So in your meditation practice, I'm just kind of wanting to make sure I'm understanding what this is for you, because I think a lot of people define so many things so differently. So meditation to some people is just a practice of like keeping their mind focused or trying to clear their mind. For you, it sounds like a space where you are opening to source or to universe, and it's a way for you to communicate with a higher power. Is that what you would call it for you?
Yes.
Okay.
It when the person agrees to the relationship, and that's just how I use my gift. Because you could imagine if you're walking around and you see dead people in real life and you have access to information.
Is that what your experience is?
Oh yeah. That's my experience.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
wow. Okay.
Obviously in a body, I really turned that off. And it was in the early career when I started to ask the question, how do you find your purpose? That all the gifts started to turn back on. And then I had to seek mentorship and support to go what the heck is happening?
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's very, very honed, and I channel it through my business. And so I meet people, I meet people at crossroads. I meet people who are ready for the down or the wisdom, or because they're looking for it within their own body. So I channel it through very specific pathways that actually allow people to sustainably work with their power. Because this kind of work, this can blow people's lives up.
I was just going to say, okay, let's pause on that, because so at first blush, it's like, oh yeah, Vanessa's a meditation coach. She's going to teach you mindfulness practices. And it's like, no, that she's going to help channel some otherworldly stuff. And it sounds to me like you're helping people. Are you helping people find that for themselves?
Yes.
Does everybody have that capacity to channel and to be open like that? Or is that a special gift? Or
I do think that people have access to this. I would just say the people who I attract, this is a client's exact words. There's more that I have to do, and I feel that you are going to be the conduit or the support or the guide who unlocks this. And that's a good way to imagine it within your system. I attract people who are ready to go. They've probably dabbled, they've probably gotten somewhere, but to just give you and the audience an actual example of what are we doing? When I take someone into meditation, the veil opens up, and it's there's full access for me because you came in and you agreed to do this. So there's full access, and then I'm channeling and listening to what the body and the soul are telling me, and I'm reflecting it back and then putting a plan together so that you can really take this into something that is sustainable.
Wow.
So yeah, there's really neat things that occur. Sometimes people do need to hear from someone on the other side, but I'm not I'm not looking to meet people who just want to talk to their, dead grandparents.
Yeah, you're helping people, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but like tap into what already exists, like their reality that already exists out there, and are you sort of bringing that reality down to earth in the now, in our now earthly bodies now? Does that make
Yes,
sense?
exactly.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you use the phrase, I can't remember how you said it, but helping people to go into the down. Is that how you said it?
Our societal understanding of
Mm-hmm.
the feigned virgin, if we use the Virgin Mary, it's like we're like enamored with, source. It's like up here. Well, we also are a culture that lives from our shoulders up. So
Mm-hmm.
the down is activating your spirit with the earth. So I can give like a few examples. The earth is our mother. So we're born, we chose this body to come through these parents. So if we don't have a clue that this place is like a place we get to work with and be in harmony with and live in, and that's what nature teaches us, our central nervous system is already building off some energetics of dysregulation, so it's like, and that was my experience. So I always am working with my experience. So if we're designed to be here and the sky is what sources us, from above, and the earth is what forces us from the down,
Mm-hmm.
that connection is you are the conduit. The human is the conduit. So usually people have accessed some sort of faith-based or spiritual-based experience that's like, yeah, it's up here, or it lives in the mind, or it lives in the head, and it over exercises that, hyper focus on living into the future, stuck in the past. So when we come into the down, we actually source the body. So we use somatic practice, we use breath, we use touch, and we start to actually bring a human into awareness of like what all this is. And so when we go into the first kind of like, when we just take a look, when we just close our eyes and we're like, okay, let's ground, let's connect. I'm sure most people here have heard of the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the base, the navel, the solar plex, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then the crown. So that's seven. And these areas, like when we come from something like from the mind, right? People are like, oh, I want to open my heart chakra, Well, we may actually have to work with the root and the navel so that you can actually sustain when that heart opens. So the down is your connection with the earth. It's also the feminine. So this is nature. It's like the wild, feral storm, and it's the beautiful blowing breeze, and it's the, rippling water. So it's actually what gives the body, it brings it back in to the earth. That's the down.
Maybe it's just because I've been awakening to the feminine, but I am sort of in awe of how many people feel like they have literally just had a moment where their eyes were opened and they're like, I've been living in my head and I've been missing out on what it feels like to be in my body, and maybe don't have the words yet that they're even calling it the feminine. But to me, it seems like there's a little bit of this undercurrent of a movement happening where people are awakening to becoming whole.
100%. 100%.
Which is just like so cool to hear you even use these words, like the language that I've been trying to, I've been finding, which is so cool.
I know. Let's all breathe into that because it is cool and it's coded in our bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. Are you finding that with a lot of the people that you work with or that you're coming in contact with, that is a very new idea to them or a new way of being, sort of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at every turn in our culture, we are invited out of our body. And that's what people should pay attention to when they're listening to this. This information is so confronting. So if you're like, whoa, I gotta stop, or whoa, I'm driving and I gotta like tune into this later, like that is an appropriate response. It's appropriate. We have been stripped from our power.
Ooh.
It should induce rage. Why the fuck did no one teach me this?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
people come in on the mind track. But they know there's more, kind of like the undercurrent you're sensing. And then the dots connect. But where we want it to connect is we want to connect in the body. Because now if you're turned on as a woman and you're connected, that is safety. I had a client recently, she's a chiropractor, so she works with the central nervous system. She's like, okay, what is like the foundation that I'm seeking? Like, what is the thing that's going to be what holds me? And it's like, your central nervous system in the earth, feeling safe. Like, that's it.
When you're talking, it's like I can feel it because I've been doing some work of just really tuning into my body. I had a moment yesterday. I was having coffee with a friend and she was explaining to me some things that were happening in her life and how she could sense change coming. And I had these sensations come up literally from my root up. And I was like, and then I was almost in tears. I said, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm feeling what you're feeling right now. And so for you to just say like, we've been stripped of our power or a lack of safety, I am having a hard time putting words to that, but it feels like power when it's in the body and when it's in my mind, when I'm like, oh, I'm really smart. I can figure this problem out, or I can empathize in my mind with how you're feeling right now. It feels empty. It doesn't feel like power. Does that make sense? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's the transmission. Cause like in the world, like me and you we're in the energy. We're transmitting from each other. And that example is perfect. It's the rise. It's the connection from the deep within the earth. It's the mother. It's the feminine. And that is what we're training women. Because when you've been stripped, and when we're training women, like that's the work I'm doing. And that's why it's a year. And that's why it's so, it has to be sustainable. Because one, we don't want to blow it up. And two, we want it to become like we're reprogramming your soma. We're rewiring your brain, to actually go like you begin to walk around. And that is how we are that is our design. We are feelers. But then to never have a backing on what you're feeling, that's how you get that's how you get taken. That's how you get taken advantage of. That's how you get in something that you're like, wake up one day and you're like, why am I here? This isn't even what I want,
Yeah.
And that's
and it seems like that is the blend of the masculine and the feminine, to be able to be so in tuned, empowered, embodied in how we feel. And to me, it's not feelings like in the way of emotion. It's feelings in the way of intuition. And so if I've been stripped of that, or I have been so disconnected from that, and maybe this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is kind of what you're talking about. When you start to come back into that, it's like you turn a light on in a room and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know all this before. But there does need to be a groundedness and a structure around it, because the ocean without a shoreline or a rock, everything still needs that structure. So I'm trying, what I would like to do is help for the listeners that are listening to understand, when you're saying like, oh, this can blow shit up, or if it doesn't have a container or a space, it's problematic. It's kind of, to me, maybe like a child who's learning to walk, and it's like a little bit clumsy and it needs some structure around it. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll share personally how I got to that, and then that's essentially how I hold women. But so I had been in my work for probably close to 7 years, and I had a rupture, a big rupture, and that is typically what brings one into the down. And it was my invitation. So it was, you know, a rupture is like something in your life that is like stops everything. And it's inviting you to have a deeper relationship with your shadow, with, you know, the dark, the down. Like we can just keep reusing this, you know, a lot of times, and people may have heard like, oh, shadow work, you know, and I like to talk about this to support people in understanding the shadow isn't something that's like, you know, we want to shut out of our life, or we don't ever want to, it's not this like hiding, creeping thing. It's just, it's the thing that's kind of just always with us that isn't getting to ever come to the front and go like, okay, what do you want me to know? Or what do you want to teach me? Or what do you want? So it was through my own personal rupture that brought me into relationship with the down. And when I got there, I sat. I was in just real reverence to what this brought, what became available. And the nature of the rupture was basically, I didn't even realize where I was disconnected from my power. And that was, you know, there was the rupture was illuminating the tether where I was just constantly giving away the power. And that is a lot of what we see in our society. The feminine we see it extracted from, you know, so the patriarchy extracts and then it builds. And that's what's coming into, you know, we could go into the astrology of how all of this is crumbled, and that is what we're in. So that is why people are in they're feeling the undercurrent of what's waking up in their lives. So this is, you know, really happening in real time on the timeline that we're living in. So that's our responsibility as women. It's our responsibility as women is to alchemize in the body, because that's then our power. Then no one can take it from us, you know? So anyway, it was through my personal rupture, and then I sat. And so I knew in my sit that this is what was going to reorganize, because if I was getting reorganized and I was getting invited to do work and meet the feminine, then my business was going to take that, like, you know, eventually the business as the extension of me was going to, you know, be rolling out. So Soulution is essentially what I built in the sit. And it was just through my own experience of sitting and tracking and being held and having people around me who were accurately reflecting me. Because, you know, this is why I have this, and it's what I'm up to. This work it's been done. Like, this is nothing new. This is ancient. Like, we are coded. You know, if you do any reading within the sacred texts, you know, women would bleed together, women would sit together, women would, you know, birth together. So this is in our code. This is in our blood. It's in our flesh. It's just, as women who are living now and who are coming to a conversation like this, you know, you wouldn't be here if you weren't, you know, getting a remembering coming on, because you couldn't even come into the frequency. It's closing the gaps of all the generational trauma. And so we understand, you know, trauma in our culture. We understand that it tracks through generations, where I think people have a gap, and where they get pushed back out, and then it's all in the mind, is to do this work is actually luxury. To be living in a time where you can work and you can raise your kids and you can have your family and you can make space to tend to what the people in your lineage never got to tend to because of whatever was going on, the level of, you know, war, or, you know, what was ever happening in your ancestry. Just unavailable resources, unavailable, like, this wave of consciousness was not present. So this work is actually luxury. And when we can adjust our systems to the down and we can take space, I mean, it takes time. This is what nature teaches us. We move through seasons. We move through cycles. And we are no different. There's no like magic pill or magic switch where you just transition. No. The work of the feminine and to fully exist in your body, it is messy. It is wild. It is feral, like I mentioned before. You will question everything you've ever learned or come through, and you will actually begin to tend and then like how you sustain is in reality. Like, well, this isn't 7 years ago. This isn't, you're not living in your home as a child and having to deal with your mother wound, but like, we're going to deal with it now, you know? And so container is something that holds you, and it, reflects back to you what you need to see. So a lot of what we're doing and why we do this in group as well is so that people can be witnessed and they can see themselves in another, because as I mentioned, we are coded for this work, and we are coded to do it in community. We aren't in silos. We aren't, everyone has something to share with another, and that's obviously true community.
So if somebody's listening to this and they are curious about the work, how do I want to put this? Like, what would you define as success? Like at the end of a year, they work with you for a year, or they start to come into the down, they come into their body. Like what does success, or like what would a win look like for them? What would your hope be for them?
I would say a success would be, that you're actually in your body and you're responding differently to stress. You know, you actually are like in the moment. It's like the mini moments that are like slowed down, because everything, you're just a vibrational being that has a physical body, has a soul, has a spirit, has emotions, has an energy body. And then you're hardwired into this like vast earth that isn't just physical. You know, so we are these multi-dimensional beings. So what I would define as like a successful result is a woman that's in her body and she is like coherent. There's no shortcuts here. Like this is, you know, we hear this term out there, spiritual bypassing. If you chose this life and you incarnated, you're in this body, and your brain is trying to determine how everything's going to go and how you're going to get out of this and how you're just going to participate over here, and you're going to participate right here. And that is what brings everything into clear view. It's what manifests all your dreams. It's how you show up so that like you're tracking with what you're here to do. And yeah, you're here to have a really big life. Yeah.
Thank you. That's so good. As you were talking about that, I'm thinking, and you said the manifestation piece. I think sometimes when people are coming into this work, I guess this is where I was trying to get at when I asked even the success question, because I'm like, I want to tell people like why it's valuable, and very bluntly, I think sometimes people will have a hook like that, like, well, I'm going to do this work so that I can manifest my partner, or I can have more success in my business. And that's sort of the bait that gets them into that was the case for me. I'm like, I want to get into my feminine because I want to attract a more masculine partner. So I started doing this work, and then the work became about something else. It wasn't really about that to begin with. It was about just me unlocking certain things so that I could live a more vibrant, pleasurable like life in general. And I believe that the other things are coming to are manifesting now because I'm resonating in a certain place in my life. And so when I'm thinking about people that are listening and you just use that word, oh, it sounds to me, and I don't mean to dumb it down too much, but like a lot of this work is about clearing blockages. It's about coming back to source, truth, grounding. And when you do that, you are getting in alignment. You're getting in alignment with self, with source, with resonance, with energy that is vibrating in a certain place, so that the things that you're not just wanting, but are designed to have can come in, can like lock in place.
And then I'll just give an extender to it. It's that, and then it's so that you can land it and hold it. So success is like a sustainable, grounded life where you're in your body and you're holding, because that's success and that's love. Those are two magnifiers, success and love. So if you want to hold finance, you have to have a relationship with your pussy.
Okay, let's talk about, what does that mean? How is money and pussy connected?
Yeah, it's everything. Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
So if this is your that's your pleasure, that's your expander, this is our creativity. Let's just do a little meditation.
Okay.
So go ahead and close your eyes. And everyone just take a breath into your diaphragm. So if you want to place your hand there, you can, and then receive the inhale. So right there, and then let it go. You have the top of your diaphragm, and then you have the lower part of your diaphragm. So imagine it like a big circle. And so once you can get the breath into the diaphragm, then place your hand on your navel and take a breath in, and let your hand receive your breath at your navel. And then with your hand at your navel, I want you to think about going even lower and breathing into your whole lower bowl. So the visualization here is the perineum, which is the skin between your vaginal opening and your anus. Imagine that right there, you would literally, feel the opening of your lower bowl, like grow out through your breath. So let's take a breath there. So true to the teaching, we're not going to give your mind little sound bites that are going to check it. You just went in with your own system, and you just got an opportunity to take a few breaths and to actually feel through your own felt sense where your breath is available to even go. So when we talk about pussy and we talk about connection, we really just start there. We start with the breath. If you want, you can, take it up just a notch, and you can actually cup that region. So cup your perineum and breathe. This is nice to do lying down. And so you're basically just beginning to source your own connection. So when we hear that, when we hear vulva, when we hear pussy, when we hear, these different ways we're bringing in, it's your connection with your breath, and where you even have like an available place to go. So if even just hearing the word is like, there, you have a reaction, which a lot of people will. That's actually being how you were raised and what you were taught and what you weren't taught. Like, that's an appropriate response. There's nothing wrong with you. Where we get blocked is it's, this overculture. It's like, then I'm gonna have to do all this, like we saw this, there was a hot minute. Do you remember when everyone was like pole dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Like, that's not how I do my work.
Yeah.
It's so what did you experience in just giving, like taking those breaths? What did you experience in your body? So just even like allowing yourself to breathe and feel and connect, it's so when we ask, like, how is that related to our money or how is that related to our love? It would be more normal than not that we'd have some level of shadow there or disconnect. And so we don't just go right in and just blow it up. And it's like, yeah, I should just have this, I should just, be able to touch myself and feel pleasure and just have this relationship with holding. It's like, no, we have to meet this with reverence. We have to meet our body in reality. And so then with the information that we get, so that would be where we start. It's literally like, okay, when you wake up in the morning, like cup that region and do 10 breaths. When you go to bed at night, do the same thing. Then track yourself. What is starting to actually begin to show up in your reality that's bringing you into the down? And our body is always the thing that's going to give us information. So some of us, it's like, that's too radical, and that's okay. We want to be in reality with ourselves, so it's like, I'm just going to start breathing. I'm going to just start having a breathwork practice where I actually open up that channel. So that could just be placing both hands under the belly, right under your navel. You can even put your thumbs like right at the base of your belly button, and just opening up the channel of your lower bowl with that breath. And so that is what I think, to get to earlier where we were going with okay, how can people understand this? It's like that resistance that one would have to stopping, pausing, breathing, that's we don't try to create a workaround. Our whole system is designed when we don't just get to understand that we have this deep relationship with the earth. I invite women, whether they have access to their breath or not, that make two things that would be the invitation would be to track your cycle. If you have a cycle, track your cycle. It starts to shift your perspective about time. And when that, it's starting to happen energetically, I can feel it. Like I can feel it in you, and then I can feel it in the extension of the audience. It's like honey.
I love that description. Yeah.
And so that's the invitation we get with our lower body. When we don't even have that connection to our own pussy, we have to be in relationship with our lower bowl and caring for ourselves in this way, because this is then what invites the deeper desires we have as women to be turned on and be in pleasure. And that is the fire. That's the burner. So that's what magnifies your aura. It's what magnifies it's how you meet your dream. And it's like truly how you manifest. I think
through your pussy.
Yeah.
I did not expect this to go here today, but I'm loving it.
I know.
I mean, it's really interesting because in my body and intuitively, it's like I don't have human words to describe it. It all makes sense in my body, partially because I've been doing this work for the last few years. And if I'm going to try to describe my experience with it, it's like if I have a lack of openness there, if I have a resistance to my own pleasure, if I have a resistance to receiving pleasure from somebody else, I have a resistance in other areas of life. I am not open to receive. And so the feminine work that I've been doing has been, I'm talking to women that are like, I don't know how to do this. One of the things that I would say, well, I started with was receiving a compliment without deflecting it back. And that was a small way for me to start seeing how resistant I was to receiving anything, but I can see energetically where if we're closed to our pleasure, you can receive physical something and not be open to receiving love, to receiving it energetically. Like you could open your legs and not be actually open.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And the difference, well, it's also powerful. I'm just like, this is just, correct me if you think that differently about this, but like, it's also powerful to understand that we can close energetically because there's some energy we don't want to receive. So to just know like, oh, what does it feel like to go, oh, I'm going to take a breath and be really open right now. And then to be in a situation, I was at the gym the other day and me and a woman were talking at the gym and this guy walked by and I looked at her and she looked at me and at the same time we were like, ooh, that's bad energy. Like, and he wasn't doing anything wildly out there. It just was like a black shadow walked by. It was we both looked at each other like, did you just feel that? And she was like, yeah. And she's not super woo woo either, but we both were like, whoa, that is a moment where I literally was like, oh, I'm shutting myself off energetically right now. I'm going to close this because I don't know what that is, but I don't want that touching me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to what you said, like, that's how you know in the feminine code, like, that's how you know something to be true, is it's felt in your body.
Yeah.
So it really, it's like, how do we get out of the head? It's like, well, start with where you can or can't connect with your body. And so when I meet with people, like, this is like the reveal, like we kind of jump to the good stuff, but why I was explaining the down is like, we meet you where you are. So a lot of people are, you don't
just start with, we're going to talk about your pussy today.
No. Maybe I'll get there. But no, it's the down. It's like, no, we're going to meet where, but this is it. This is the transmission. Like, I don't know. I feel turned on right now. This is how we should feel.
Yeah.
And be safe. And that's why we need sisters and we need community. And then we need to do this work because then, when the woman is a spiritual leader. So when the woman is embodied, then the men feel safe to do the work. And I mean, we won't go too into it, but it's up. It's time now. Men are getting asked to do the work.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. That's part of, it's so interesting because even with this podcast, as I was getting started with it, I was like, I really feel like the message that I am compelled to share is also for men because I see the need for them to do the work, and I don't mean that as a slam on them. I hadn't really done quote unquote the work until the last 4 years, probably, to really get into my body and to, face my shadow and welcome her in and all of that stuff. But I'm also just seeing men really disembodied and lacking from that and what it looks like to hold that masculine space in a really powerful way, not in an egoic alpha type way, in a really grounded, like tree trunk way.
I know.
So yeah. And you could tell, like, even in this conversation, it makes room for the feminine to get to be, I like how you said, I feel turned on. Like, yes, there's the sexual part of turn on, but there's really a turn on that is like electric. It's like, oh, I just got turned on. Somebody just flipped a switch. And that is the magnetic. That is the like, whoa, yeah, now she's radiating, which is really fun.
And that's why we need the time. We need like appropriate structure and container so that that can become sustainable. Because, people do, like, not just scare people, but like your whole life does change. And it's like in the most beautiful way. Things you never imagined. You're like, oh my gosh, because you're alive and you're here and you're available. And I mean, if you do this for anyone, do it for our kids. Like, our kids need mothers and fathers in their bodies. Because all a kid is doing, so we are born to be imprinted. So most people have probably heard from 0 to 7, everything you ever needed to experience. This is like what psychology teaches us. You've seen it, you've witnessed it, you've experienced it, and then at 8 years old, you turn out and your world is reflected back to you based on how you've been imprinted. So where if you are a woman or a mother or a father that's always just kind of like slightly like unsure or not really a kid, they're just like, here, hi, they're all here, and they're just slowly dulling, compartmenting. And so that's really what, when we really get into the work, that's really what it is. It's, we're tracking with your childhood. We're tracking with what's going on with your children, because typically children at a certain age will trigger whatever happened to you at a certain age. I cannot tell you how many times that connection's made in my practice. And the other big question that I hear right now just up in the audience is like, well, what if I don't know? Or what if I don't remember? Honey, your body does. Your body has been through everything. We don't want your mind anymore. Your mind has just been conditioned to go like, boop, boop, boop. I can just move from this to this to this to this to this. And it's not sustainable. And things in your life are showing you that, things get harder, things, but then that's the gap. So between here and here, it's like, and I'm down, like, so we don't just jump right to the pussy. It's like, no, let's just tend to where your heart got shut down, where you had to slightly dull, where and it's just a very beautiful, natural process. And it's so personal. It's never something that's like, someone's making me. No, it's like, it's true because you feel it. It's in your body and you see it in front of you. It's reflected to you in your life. Like, all of a sudden there's this different opening that's available in all your relationships. You have access to your voice. So it's just like that success. Like, it's nuance. And that's the feminine. It's so nuanced and it's everything. It's life. That's why we're all here. Yeah.
You're doing great work, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Okay,
I love to be able to talk about it like this.
Ooh, yeah. So you can channel. So for the audience today, for people that are listening, is there anything else that you haven't shared that you think wants to come through you?
Yeah, let's do a message. Let's just kind of go back into that place of just like connecting with like all the viewers. So everyone, just take a breath again at your diaphragm. And then let yourself find your shoulders. So locate your left shoulder and your right shoulder. And then locate your left hip and your right hip. Acknowledge your fingers, palms. You can wiggle the fingers, feel the palms on your body. And then acknowledge the feet. So toes. And then we're going to open the crown. So connect to the top of your head. Imagine you've got that open portal. Let the energy come down. Feel your left side brain, right side brain start to light up from the source of the sun. Connect to the vibration behind your third eye. So if you track right behind your brow line and come to the pineal gland, and then we're going to come to the hypothalamus and then the pituitary. So just imagine that you know exactly where those 3 lines of energy are within your head space. Find your jaw, unhinge it. Take a swallow. Move down your throat. And then we're going to access the heart. So imagine just kind of position your shoulders and your heart in an upward kind of space, letting in light, letting in love. Track down the spine. Notice how the spine attaches to your pelvis, how your bones attach to your pelvis, create your legs, your knees, your ankles. So to really be able to receive, we just have to give everyone their awareness of like, oh, this is my physical body. This is my architecture that holds me here. And then start to imagine that there's a figure eight, an energetic figure eight that's moving through your navel. And if you're a female, moving through your womb. So just imagine, even if you don't have a womb, just imagine the energetic placement of your womb and just let this figure eight energy start to move through. You may even be called to move your hips in a figure eight position. That's fine. Just feel. And then just imagine that I could come behind you and just tap on the back of your shoulder blade where your heart is. Just like, it's like we're just waking it up. We're just giving it a little tap, tap, little knock at the door. And then ask your higher self to embody. So this all-knowing version of you, your soul, just ask it to come right on in. You've just outlined through your visualization the physical architecture that can hold it. And then really let your feet, the feet of your soul, stabilize in your soul, in your feet. Your arms, your hands, your heart, your chest, your head. And so we're going to let each one of you receive a message from your soul. And so I want you to imagine that right out in front of you, there is a kind of like a locked box, a little locked chest. And just observe it. Just see it show up. Notice kind of the environment you're in. Maybe there's some symbols or some color, some painting on the chest. Notice the size, the shape. Notice how the chest is sealed shut. Notice the lock. And then your soul invites you just to reach into the center of your heart, and you'll receive the key. And you're going to just take that key and you're going to unlock the lock. And just take a moment with yourself to really be in the experience of what it's like to place the key in the lock, turn it, feel, see, notice the sensation of that lock popping open. And then with reverence, removing the lock, opening the chest, and then just notice what treasure is there for you on the inside. Could be words, could be symbols, could be a physical thing, could be a person, could be a loved one. Don't doubt the ease of just what comes forward. And then go ahead and remove, in whatever way or capacity you can, the gift. Whether you understand it or not, put it up to your heart. Take a breath. And the message today is trust that you are exactly where you need to be, and that the message that came forward in your treasure is now melted through your breath into your heart. And the invitation is to walk with the gift, not from the mind. Walk with the gift from the felt sense. Walk with the gift in the body, and then let it unfold. Let the energetics of what this gift is getting brought to you right now. You've been praying, you've been asking, you've been wondering. Prayers are answered through people. Prayers are answered through books, podcasts, experiences, and then just work with it. So write down the symbol, write down the sensation. Keeping an open mind, and then just track with it. And there's going to be more to your understanding. And this is the gift within the gift within the gift. It's, the person here, the people here, there isn't anything you're going to get anymore from instant gratification. The gift is what you're giving yourself in allowing yourself time, allowing yourself space. And so look for the openings and trust it. Everyone can bring their hands to touch. Allow yourself to acknowledge the felt sense here. So push your left into your right into your left. Create some heat. And then just let your hands rest on the body. So anywhere where you had an experience thus far that could use some touch or some connection, just let your hands rest there. And just receive. And let yourself come back. Your moment. Your reality.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. That's lovely.
And that'll be fun. People can share, because that's really how we begin to understand. Like, be with this and then circle back and then share what you uncovered. Like, that's the circle, that's storytelling. That's our web. That's our connection to everything. And that is what becomes more interesting, which is true power. It's true connection.
You're saying all the things. Yep.
Yeah. The way knows the way, but we have to be in relationship with the body so that we can trust it.
Yeah. Okay. Vanessa, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So if people want to get a hold of you and work with you, how can they find you?
Yes. So my website is vanessafeils.com. So that's Feils. And the solution, which is actually what's, it's my lowest level offering that's just available right now, is you can book a discovery call if you want to actually talk with me and you want to be, you want to be in a more engaged have a more engaged personal experience on a pathway. If you just know, like, yep, I want more of this, like, that's a great spot to start. And we can offer, I recently did a showcase of the program, so it brings people into like an explanation and it takes you through a whole process. It's about an hour and it shows you the back end of the system. So that's a really nice way to orient people. So we'll make it easy for your viewers to be able to access that showcase replay of the program. And then, there's private pathways as well. So the entrance into a private pathway is just booking a discovery call. Okay. And we'll provide that link. And then I will be doing a Midwest, because I know I'm in Miami, but I'm going to be doing a Midwest immersion in July. Cool. So I would also like to include that offering for your viewers, because that really allows people to come into, like, if you want like a physical experience and you really want to like feel community through the physical way, that'll be a really nice opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, yeah. Well, we'll have all of that in the show notes. Thank you again for being here with me today, Vanessa. This was a pleasure. And I didn't expect it to go all the ways it went, and I'm so glad it did.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.